If you're going to be a tough guy, you stay quiet. If you're going to be a loudmouth, you're going to get your ass kicked.
In smoky rooms where deals are made, loyalty the ace he's played. A friend of ours, he'll stand up tall. Through gunfire smoke, he'll never fall. With heart of gold and steel resolve, a mystery we'll never solve.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another wonderful edition of the Friend of Ours podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling. And of course, the Don of Wrestling, one of the greatest of all times, a guy who is not only a friend of mine, he's a friend of ours, Big Vito LoGrasso. How you doing there, Vito?
I'm doing fine. A friend of ours is a friend of his, is a friend of mine. You know what I mean? He's with us.
He's with us.
He's with us. You know what I'm saying? But I hope everybody's doing good. I know the winter up north is killing people. I hope everybody is nice and well and that the snow is going to subside real soon. In Florida, of course, we had our cold spell, but we got through it. So the nicer weather is starting to happen for us. But Duke, I know you did some great things. And, you know, guys, he doesn't brag about it. But when you go and you could shovel out elderly people's homes, that's a gold star in your nest egg. That's a gold star for your heart. Duke did it this past week. I used to do it when I was up north, and it's a great thing. I don't know how Duke was getting paid, but I know that I used to get paid in black jelly beans, and the old ladies used to think it was the greatest thing ever.
You listen, there's something about you and that licorice, that anisette, all that, the sambuca. There's something with you and that licorice, huh? You got the black jelly beans now?
No, that's how they used to pay me, because they used to want to give me money, right? And I said, I can't take your money. Well, Vito, I have to give you something, because that's the way it used to be back then. They all looked at me as a kid, now as a grown man, you know? So I said, you know what, I said, get me some black jelly beans. I said, I like black jelly. Is that all you want? I said, yeah. So I come in your house, I sit down, and I have my black jelly beans. So there was about 5 or 6 people in the neighborhood who had a black jelly bean bowl. And they used to tell people, no, can't touch that. That's Vito's. Can't do it. Leave those alone. Yeah, we got some other jelly beans over here for you. But I had my own special bowl in my own special place. And the one lady who used to love me to death, like a son, Miss Shirley, she made sure I had boots. She made sure I had warm clothes. She made sure I had gloves, and I used to be out there, doing everything. And, she loved me to death, Miss Shirley. I totally miss her. You have no idea.
Wow. Shout out to Miss Shirley. When's the last time you thought about her?
I think about her often. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's even like the snow, and you know what I mean? And I always sit back and remember, because, she, she took care of me. Like when my wife got sick and Miss Shirley was living next door to us, my wife is in the hospital, and they said, Vito, you're not eating. I said, I can't eat. I says, I can't sleep. She goes, why don't you come here, bring your clothes, and, let me wash your clothes. He says, I'll give you a meal. And I said, Miss Shirley, please. She says, Vito, I'm telling you to do it. Don't make me mad. So I used to go over there and say, I brought my clothes for her to wash, because I was redoing the house. And the guy who was redoing our house, he did us wrong. And the house was a mess. She's in the hospital. I'm not eating. I'm working. I'm doing work in the house wearing my good clothes, and I'm ruining everything. So it was just a tough time. And then the funniest story is there was a lady visiting Miss Shirley. So I walk in, I give her a kiss, hello. Miss Cheryl goes in the bedroom, gets my clothes, and she says, I will see you for dinner. I said, okay, Miss Cheryl, I'll see you later. I gave her a kiss and a hug goodbye, and I walked out. So the lady goes, Cheryl, you're not. She goes, things happen. You can understand. When she told me that, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. That is the
Ridiculous.
greatest story. Things happen.
Things happen, right? You don't say anything, you say everything all at the same time. Things happen.
Things happen. That's it. But
I love
you
that.
talk about that. That's probably one of the greatest stories in the neighborhood that I am very fond of. Things happen. He's a good boy. I'll see you for dinner.
Oh, listen, shout out to Miss Cheryl. I'm sure she listens to every episode, no matter where she is, and that great spirit in the sky. That's good stuff there. I love that.
Wait a minute, dude. All right, now I know you like to copy me with clothes and shoes and suits and Versace jewelry. I'm begging you, please don't start going and having people get black jelly beans, and don't go find a Miss Cheryl. All right, it's my shit. All right, my
Forget about that. I'm going to reach out to the jelly bean companies and see if they want to sponsor the show. I mean, now that we know that you're a connoisseur over here, you know,
I have big time black jelly beans, the best.
that is incredible. That is, you might be the first person I ever met to say it. I don't mind the black jelly beans, and I'll tell you another thing. I
Yeah,
understand the fancy jelly beans with the different flavors, and that's all good. I can enjoy those, but there's something about that cheap pack of jelly beans at the grocery store. It's like a buck and a half. You know the ones I'm talking about.
I
There's
know
just something
exactly.
about, you know exactly what I'm talking about, brother. I love those things, all of them. The orange ones, the white ones, the red ones, even the black ones, the licorice flavor. There's just something about that. Everything doesn't always have to be the most expensive or the top of the line.
Oh,
Sometimes the most simple things can be the most enjoyable, you know? So
that's true. It's
there's
like
that.
my wife the other day. My wife the other day, she goes, we haven't had cookie dough in a long time. I was going shopping last week. I said, yeah, we have, and we like to eat it raw. And I can't tell you the last time I ate it. I mean, probably it's like over a year plus. This is okay. So I go shopping. I come home. We sit down and watch TV. And hey, did you get the cookie dough? I said, yeah, I got it for you. It wasn't the most expensive one. It was the cheap one, but it was damn good.
See? See? You know who has cookie dough? And it's frozen cookie dough in bites. Ben and Jerry's. They sell those, you know.
I know. And when I used to eat it on the regular, if anybody out there is a connoisseur of cookie dough, it used to come in a tub. And people couldn't understand why it used to come in a tub instead of the roll. I said, that's because when people like me go to the gym and can eat it with a spoon out of the tub, and you know exactly how many spoonfuls you can have before you call it a night.
Tips of the trade here. Listen to this guy. We got cookie dough, we got jelly beans, we got it all here. Well, listen, it's interesting. First of all, thank you to everybody who are our loyal listeners. You keep sharing the show. You keep spreading the word. And I just find that so fascinating. I really appreciate all of you for doing that because, we could see how we're adding new listeners every single week. It's an amazing streak. It's not easy to do. We a lot of shows they top off after the third or fourth episode, and we just keep growing. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everybody out there. Keep spreading the word about the Friend of Ours podcast because we're just getting started and we got so much more fun stuff to talk about. So this week, Donnie Brasco, legitimately one of the more fascinating movies ever, and really one of the more fascinating stories as it relates to the American mafia. Because here we have an FBI agent who was not only able to infiltrate the mob, but he was legitimately one of the guys he was in, as an undercover. And all the wiretaps and the reports and everything like that ended up becoming one of the biggest trials in the history of the mafia in America. and it took down a whole family and what have you. It was crazy, just the whole way that the thing went down. But there is a movie that starred Johnny Depp and Al Pacino. Uh, Absolutely one of the favorite mafia movies out there. If you look at any list, you'll definitely see Donnie Brasco on there. Came out in 1997. But folks, this was 100% true story. It absolutely happened. Real people. In fact, the guy, Joe Pistone, Donnie Brasco was his undercover name, but Joe Pistone, he's still alive. He's still doing interviews and things like that out there. This was a real thing. So before we even dig into the specifics, let me ask you first and foremost, Vito, do you remember this story? So even before the movie, did the movie happen first and then you learned the story, or did you already know the story before the movie came out?
I knew the story of Donnie Brasco because, you're talking about like mob stuff. And, like you said, he was an undercover agent. He used to be a jewel thief from Vero Beach, Florida. He hung out with Lefty, who was a mafia hitman. And Lefty wasn't too bright, but he was a wise guy's wise guy because when it came to doing business, he was the Sammy the Bull of the generation before. Let's put it that way. I'll give him that.
Indeed. No two ways about it. I mean, Lefty was a bad dude, as the Orange Man would say. Mafia hitman. And he befriended this kid, this jewel thief, known as Donnie Brasco. And somehow, some way, the jewel thief was able to get so close to Lefty that Lefty was bringing him around to everybody, introduce him to everybody. And eventually, one of the bosses took a liking to Donnie as well. And that's how he was basically a made guy. He was allowed to be with them and part of a crew and all that good stuff there. I mean, it was completely crazy. First time it ever happened where you had an FBI agent that deep and that close to the action as it relates to the New York Mafia at the time. And keep something in mind, folks. This is the 70s. So we're not talking about something like we've told the story of different time periods in the mafia. We've talked about obviously Vito's ancestor there. We've talked about a lot of different things, Lucky Luciano, what have you. But this is something that happened fairly recently. Within the past 50 years, all these things happen. And like I said, some of these guys are still alive. So again, undercover agent infiltrates the mob, records everything. The dialogue in the movie is exactly what they were really saying to each other, which is unheard of. Because the way that they talk, the way that they dress, the way that you watch the movie, you're watching real life, basically. So let's start with the characters first here, Vito. Lefty. This is a guy, he's seasoned, he's been around, he's trusted, he's respected. He's a guy who trains the younger guys on how to be a gangster, right? How to live the
Right.
life properly. But at the same time, Lefty is a degenerate gambler. Everybody knows it, which is why he's always trying to bum money off of people and what have you, because as soon as he gets a buck in his hand, he's going out to play the numbers or bet on sports or whatever. He was just that kind of guy. And because of that, he lived a pretty modest life. Think about that character, Vito. How
Right.
many times throughout life have you run into people like Lefty where they're like a fixture? They're always around. They're that guy. You get a kick out of him, what have you. But at the same time, you understand the reason why he's not a bigger deal than he is.
That's one of the reasons why I moved out of Staten Island in 2006 because it was the same old guys talking about the same old bullshit, sitting on the same old bar stools in the same old clubs. And I didn't want to live that lifestyle no more. I wanted something more for myself. And being back then in Staten Island and me had being a part of the community and being in all the clubs there, you knew who was who, and it was just the status quo. And everybody, from Staten Island went to New Jersey for the summer. Whether it was Jenkinson's in Point Pleasant or Club B or but there comes a point where you just say, "Hey, I got to break away from this." And I was just talking to my friend Vinny Salenti, he's one of my he's like my brother. You know what I mean? Like we grew up together. He was 14, 15 years old, and I just spoke to him. His sister had passed away, and we were talking about stuff. And we were talking about how we came up and all the stuff we went through, the story he had. They used to run numbers out of it, and we all hung out with the same guys. He was with a different crew, and we all started out in South Beach when it was all Italian, the surf club. We were all playing ball for the club, and there were a bunch of guys who were firefighters who all had connections. Whose father was this? Whose nephew was that? It all came. It was just a family thing, an Italian thing. And I could tell you as a kid, and this is a true story. There was one guy named Johnny, and he used to break my balls all the time because I was a new guy, right? And he used to want to fight me all the time. So one day, I had had enough, and we went at it, and I beat the shit out of him. And then he goes and gets his guy named John Studo, who's about 6'6", 300 pounds. Makes his presence known to me, but I didn't give a shit. I was 14, 15 years old. You know what I mean? And then, it was just, I made my way. I met Vinny, and we were playing wiffle ball in front of his store. So then I met a girl who is like my summertime girlfriend. And she comes to me one day and she says, "Listen, there's the brothers are bothering me." I said, "What brothers?" And I forget their names. It was about five of them. So I get mad and I said, "Okay, where are they?" "They're at the beach, but don't go." So I go to the beach by myself. And there's five of them there. So he I'm ready to throw down with the guy. I was gonna throw him right off the boardwalk. And then right behind me was her father. And he pulled me by my shirt because he saw I was going. So he laid down the law. It was his name was Charlie Zappler. He was a good man, good person, and he was a fireman, and he was he was connected in South Beach. And he looked at me and he says, "Vito," he says, "you come down here to protect my daughter." I says, "Yeah." I says, "What was I gonna?" He says, "Next time, you come and get me, and we'll do this together. You understand?" I says, "Yeah, I got it." He says, "Thank me. Anything I ever wanted, anything I ever needed, I went to him just because I did that, like an old Italian custom." But it would have been a hell of a fight. I mean, there's five brothers and just me, so I know I would have got the one guy off the boardwalk. I don't know what would have happened after that. So
Jesus Christ, can you imagine? The same old Beto, ready to fight the world. One man army, I'll tell you.
but you know what? That's the way it was back then, and that's the way you had to be. And whether you came from Brooklyn, coming to Staten Island, or the way you grew up, it was like, yeah, I'm fighting. We're gonna fight, and we're gonna do this. And I didn't want to fight people, but when I had to fight people, I fought and I won, and that was it. And then there's always a repercussion because, oh, he beat me up. Oh, you were breaking my fucking balls, and you didn't want to stop. And this started from when I was a kid. And my friend Vinny, I'll give you a quick story. His father, we used to play baseball, and we go to his father, Bill. He said, "Your father knows a guy from the Mets, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I says, "Why don't we go to get him to get us tryouts with the Mets, and we'll go." Because I was throwing like 80, 85 miles an hour back then pitching, and Vinny was a good ball player. So we walk in the house, and we said, "Hey, Bill, you think you could, set us up to go get a tryout with the Mets?" We still laugh about this today. This never gets old. And he just looks at us with this face, and like, "Nah, are you kidding me? I ain't forget you no tryout." And he said it to Vinny, he said it to me. But Vinny had a brother Biff. But if Biff asked him to get the tryout, oh, his prized possession, who was a shitty ball player, by the way, he would have did it. You believe this shit?
Unbelievable.
I'm still
Unbelievable.
mad about it. I'm still mad about this tryout thing. But but every time I talk to Vinny, the tryout comes out.
Unbelievable. I swear. You know, when it comes to these old timers in particular who
Right.
want to show you the ropes and what have you, at what point does it become either I'm going to sit here and listen to this guy and, become somebody like him, or like you did, I got to get away from this guy? What's like the wake up call? What is that moment where you hit that fork in the road?
Well, you got to remember something. When you're there and you're hanging out with them, or they take you under their wing, hey, you want to take a ride? Yeah. And you're cool, and you just going about business, and they talk to you, and then if you're in the club where they're at, hey, come on over, how you doing? This is so and so, is a friend of mine. You know what I mean? He's a friend of ours. And that's the way it went, legit, and that's how I got to know a lot of people in Staten Island. And then when it came to bouncing back then, hey, aren't you the guy from the jailhouse, or aren't you from the bistro or the Waterloo? Hey, I says, yeah, that's me. He says, yeah. He says, I might have a job for you. He says, are you interested? I said, yeah. Whatever they wanted me to do, I used to do. But I was cool about it. You know what I mean? If I was gonna go collect some money, or if I was gonna, make an appearance at somebody's front door because they're being a wise guy to somebody, and the big thing was just to make an impression, not to hurt anybody, but just, do your thing. And then when you talk about this with Donnie Brasco, right? Him being a federal agent, him having to actually cut up somebody and having to actually kill somebody as an agent, that's got to be mind blowing, because you're trying to uphold the law, but you have to uphold the loyalty to the mob, because Lefty put his name on you and he brought you in. If you screw him up, he's a dead man, just like you seen in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like you've seen in the movie. When you have a guy who brings somebody around who turns out to not be so all right, in this case, it's an FBI agent, which is just, that was unheard of. But even if it's just a guy who's a scumbag, you find out, oh, he's a thief, or he's doing the wrong thing. Maybe he's hooked on drugs, whatever. How do people in the life react to the person who brought the scumbag into the family, so to speak?
Well, they look at you like you should have better judgment. But me and everybody else in that room, you're not trusting him. You're not giving him no money. You're not giving him a job. You're never not doing nothing, because you don't know what he's going to do. He's a wild card. And if you're a wild card, you know, just like in the movie Gotti, where they send, Castellano sends his hitman to walk with Gotti to do the job, do a piece of work, and the guy goes off the rocket and Gotti kills him. It's the same scenario. So like when you get these jobs and you go do these things, you got to be cool about it. I've gotten union jobs, I've gotten jackhammer jobs, I worked in construction companies where they told me, this is your job, I want you to watch this, do this. And I said, okay, no problem, I'm getting paid good money, but my loyalty is to them because they got me the job. So you do what you got to do.
Indeed. Indeed. What were your thoughts on the way that Al Pacino played that character? Because now you got a situation where Pacino played Michael Corleone. Pacino played Scarface, Tony Montana.
Right.
Pacino had already played Carlito Brigante in Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
He had played all of these different characters that were connected to different types of mafioso and, different versions and what have you. And now he's playing this guy who's a lower level guy. He's a regular guy. He's like a middle manager, basically, right? What did you think of
Right.
Pacino, who's usually playing the boss, playing a guy like this, Lefty?
See, but when you play the boss and you're doing like he's a great actor, and when you're involved with the mob, and I'm sure Al Pacino has had some friends who are connected, and sure he grew up in some kind of way, knows about the lifestyle. But when you look at how he portrayed this character, he was dead on as a guy who was a hitman, wise guy, who only was, would do the job. He wanted to be bigger, but they saw he wasn't that smart and he was loose with his money. He didn't dress the right way like wise guys dress, the classy ones or the guys who were supposed to be made guys. He didn't carry himself on that upper tier, but for any, grunt work or, jobs that had to be done, he was the guy you wanted to do it because he's loyal. He knew how to do the job. There wouldn't be any question of what happened. Did you take care of this? Yes. Good job. And that's, I mean, then you look at Sonny Black, who is, one of those cocky son of a bitches, which I've come across because who knows how they got up the ladder, and he's trying to be bigger than when they are. And then when the old timers laugh at him or make a joke or, yeah, look at this fucking Jujrul, you know what I mean? Look at him. But then that Jujrul is going to come to your house. He's going to whack you. I says, and then there you go. And there's Sonny Black as somebody made.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, you brought up Sonny Black. Here's a guy who, and again, this is based off of a real character here. Sonny Black was able to rise up the ranks and become a boss. Right? He
Right.
had a little crew. They made money. They did the right things and all that good stuff there. And then he became a real boss. And he told Donnie Brasco, "You're with me. I understand you're hanging out with Lefty and all that other stuff, but no, you're with me." So that was the end of that, right? Michael Madsen
Well,
played Sonny Black, and shout out to Michael Madsen because he played that character so well, which was excellent. Now, here's a little trivia for you, Vito. I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but it was actually the real Sonny Black who ended up getting invited to a sit down, and he got killed over bringing in an FBI agent into the family. It wasn't Lefty, it was Sonny Black. So Sonny Black is the one who got the call. Hey, you got to come in for a sit down. Okay, no problem. He's at his bar, takes all his jewelry off, takes all the money out of his pocket, takes his keys out. He only leaves his car keys so he can get in the car and go to the sit down. And he told the person at the bar, he said, "Listen, I just got called for a sit down and I'm probably not coming back. So make sure my girlfriend gets all this." Then he gives her a call and he tells her, "Hey, I left you some stuff here at the bar. They'll make sure you get it. Do me a favor. If you ever run into Donnie Brasco, let him know that I loved him and he was just better at this thing than we were. But, I still love the guy." And sure
right.
enough, he went to the sit down. He got wiped out. Now, here's the crazy part. The girlfriend eventually contacted the FBI and they flew her down to Washington, or over to Washington, I should say. And she legitimately met with Donnie and some of the other guys. And she told them exactly what Sonny Black told her. Like, yeah, he said he loved you. And you were better at being an FBI agent than he was at being a gangster. And that's just what happened. Crazy story. But Sonny Black overall, what did you think about the portrayal and what did you think about the guy outside of being an arrogant prick that he was?
Well, I mean, he was feeling his oats. He's trying to make his way. I mean, I guess in a way, like he knew how to play the game and he knew how to be, but he wasn't going to take shit from people. And if somebody fucked with his crew, he was going to take it out. Especially when you saw the jail scene when he was in, and we got a rat in this thing. And when you tell the guys we got a rat and we got to figure it out, everybody's looking at each other in the jail. Who the hell is the rat? Now, if they pick the wrong guy, hey, bad on you. But we killed the wrong guy. But if they get the right guy, hey, we took care of this, and now it's done. Now we got no more rats.
Indeed. It's crazy, Vito. And in my line of work, I was taught by some old time legends, and they would always tell me, listen, don't be walking around in places that you're not 100% sure is secure. Even your own house, you got to be careful about what you say and how you say it. If you don't want what you say to end up on the front page of the newspaper, then you probably shouldn't say it out loud. And you got to be careful who you're saying certain things to, right? Now these are guys who are on the level telling me this when I'm a kid, just learning. And as you know,
Right.
to this day, I still stick to that, where it's like, you gotta be careful how you phrase things. You got to make sure that you're clear about what you're saying. And if it can't be on the front page of the newspaper, maybe you should keep it to yourself. The notion of being in a situation where things are happening and somebody in the room could be wearing a wire, or somebody could be bringing you to a place that's bugged, where people are going to hear things that are going on that you wouldn't want them to hear. Talk to me about the concern about that. Did you or people around you ever have that kind of concern? How real was that?
I could tell you of a conversation I witnessed between um, two very influential mob guys in Staten Island, and there was a meeting, and I was told to drive the second car and follow the car. What then I learned, what then as I left, the radio went up, and then they were whispering in each other's ear because they didn't want no bugs. They didn't want nobody to know what they were saying. And this is a real true story. And I witnessed that. And I'm driving and I'm saying, I says, are they really doing this? I says, holy shit. And they were in on some big construction site job which was worth millions. And I'm watching this from from the car behind, and it was real. And you know, it does happen. They're very protective of what they say, how they say it, where they go, where the meetings are. That's why, like a lot of times, if they walk and talk, it's outside, But as you know, there's a lot of cameras, a lot of people outside taking your picture, maybe somebody reading lips, So it's everybody talking into a thing, into your hand, nodding at things and not saying a word. Because if you nod, what was it? Oh, he was nodding. Okay, I was sleepy, so I was just nodding off. But it's a real thing when you have to be that high on confidentiality when you talk about this business.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And I'm going to tell everybody out there right now, first of all, crime doesn't play. Stay away from the illegal life, folks. When we talk about these things, these are all cautionary tales. So I want to make sure that we're clear about that. But just to make something abundantly clear, in 2025, you got cameras on every street corner. Look up at the traffic lights. The cameras there. And FYI, folks, your city or your town, those are their cameras. Your tax dollars paid for that and all that good stuff. They got to monitor traffic, and if there's too much traffic at an unusual hour, then they'll change the patterns of the traffic lights in the moment and stuff like that. So there's a function for that from a transportation standpoint. But there's also another function. There's another layer to that. The feds, they monitor and they store a lot of that data. So don't think you're outside doing anything and getting away with it. That's just not the way it goes. And I want to take it a step further. If you live in a major municipality and there's these things called shot spotter, it's these large microphones, speakers in addition, that are supposed to pick up the sound of gunshots. And the idea is when the shot spotter picks up the sound of a gunshot going off, it immediately lets local law enforcement know somewhere around such and such block shots were fired. And then the cops go in the area and they try to, figure it out and what have you. Well, that technology is very hush hush, folks. Very hush hush. If the damn thing can pick up when a gunshot goes off, why can't it pick up when you're having a conversation outside? Of course it can. Of course it can. Crime doesn't pay anymore, folks. It never really did. So just be careful out there. Even when you're walking down the street, don't ever think for 1 second that you're not being monitored somehow. So people got Ring doorbell cameras and all these other things. You're being monitored 24/7. All right? That's just the way it is. Gone are the days where you could just do things and get away with it. And every time you think you're getting away with it, they're just giving you more time to dig a deeper hole. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. Johnny Depp. Here's a kid who we remember him from 21 Jump Street, ironically, right? Playing an undercover cop on 21 Jump Street. There's one for you young folk. You probably never heard of that before. So we're showing our age here, Vito. But Johnny Depp, to my knowledge, he's not an Italian guy. But yet he played Donnie Brasco incredibly well. That's my opinion. What's your opinion about his performance in that movie?
I think he did a great job, especially for being a young entrepreneur, diamond thief. He had the look, he had the know-how, he knew how to talk and handle himself. And you saw the difference, how to be a tough guy, especially when they were in the bar and the guy tried to sell him a Fugazi and then he slapped him up. He says, "You want to live? What do you got? Give me your car. Is that your car outside? Give me a car." Lefty got a car out of it, and he only had to slap him up once. And being that person, you got to be sometimes the one that stops the violence, and you got to keep you got to keep peace, because you know what? When you're a loose cannon, it don't matter. It's gonna go. But if you have somebody with you who's calm, cool, and collected, they save you a lot of grief.
Yeah. Taking the guy's car is a lot better than taking the guy's life. So there's no two ways about that, It's a lot less hassle there. But shout out to Johnny Depp. He played that character incredibly well. And you're right. The jewel thief, he's supposed to be an expert on these things. He was able to spot a Fugazi. First time I ever heard the word Fugazi was in this movie. I never heard the word before, surprisingly. Vito, what is a Fugazi?
It's fake. It's not real. What are you trying to do? Huh? You giving me fake shit? That's a Fugazi.
And when it comes to diamonds, that's a big deal, folks. You know that. Somebody who knows what they're looking at, who understands jewelry, who understands diamond, they can spot it a mile away. While the untrained eye, they don't even realize they're walking around with a cubic zirconia or something like that, what have you. But Johnny Depp played that character so well, and obviously it's based on a real guy. Most of that stuff really happened, but the challenge of having to pretend to be this entirely different person. And then you get a break here and there where you go home to your real family and you got to shut that pretend person off and be the real guy that you are. The lines got blurred and it messed up his family. And there's an irony there because, Vito, you as an entertainer, pro wrestling, acting, and what have you, you can relate to the notion of being a character and then having to find a way to shut that character off and just be Vito. And a lot of your peers, unfortunately, they never figured out how to shut the character off. They wanted to just be the character forever, as opposed to going back and being the regular guy that you are with your family, the people who know you and love you the most. Talk to me about the challenge. Was it ever challenging for you to just be Vito again after you've been this big superstar?
Well, guys, I tell you what, being Big Vito, the wrestler, I can tell you honestly, um, I was more feared than liked. I didn't have a lot of close friends. I didn't have a lot of family outings. Um, it was kind of sad because I have this great heart, and but my objective was to be the greatest pro wrestler, and you lose sight of what the family business is about. Family meaning, hey, I got a wife, I got kids, I got a mom, I got a dad, I got to spend time at home. Family time. So, what people don't understand is when the second time I got married to my wife, who, by the way, we are celebrating an anniversary the day I proposed to her. And today is the anniversary day for Miss Noel. And first thing I told her, I says, you're going to live good, you're going to be okay, and you come before wrestling. And I kept that promise to her, even, 10 years later. And even though we've had it rough where her health is not great, I still stick by her. I support her. I do everything as a husband. Where if I was Vito, Big Vito, I don't know if I would have did that because I was on the road all the time. So transformation is a big word. And today I could tell you I have hundreds and thousands of friends. I'm well liked. I'm loved. People got to see the real me. I'm funny. I'm the life of the party. And I just like being Vito. I say that all the time. I just like being myself. And when people say, "Hey, you never told me you were a wrestler. You never told me you were this," and people stop me all the time, I says, I'm just trying to be me. I want you to like me for me, not because of who I am or who I portrayed. So there's a lot that goes into that, and there are a lot of wrestlers who are older today who they can't break that persona, but who knows what goes on in their house? I can only speak for myself. And when it was time for me to make a choice, I wasn't going to make the same mistakes I made in my first marriage, if that anybody understands that. So, being that I am a family man, I raised two good kids with my wife. When I met her, she had two children, and we raised a nice family. We have we have a nice house. We live good. We struggle. You know what I mean? Because it's just the way it is. But you know what? I like the person I am, and my wife likes the person I am. I'm not on 150 all the time. I'm mellow. I don't want to have my balls broken. I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to have anybody to get in my face. If you happen to wake me up, I am going to tell you, what do you want to do about it? Okay, then what do you want to do about it? Stop breaking my balls. Stop crying. What do you want to do? Because I'll still crack you one, and you know what I mean. But I don't want to. But I'm not going to take nobody's shit, and that's the truth. And that's one thing that will never change.
You are who you are, and absolutely, a nice guy. I always say this: you have people who are legitimately tough guys, and then you have people who want others to believe that they're tough guys. And for me, the way that I've figured out the difference through the years, the tough guys are usually the people who go out of their way to avoid conflict. They don't want it. Is there a way we could talk about this? All right, let's walk away. Let's leave it alone. No problem. Whatever. They try their hardest to avoid having to take it to the next level. They try to de-escalate. Those are the tough guys, folks. Right? The people who are looking for it, who are always barking at somebody, who's always trying to push somebody around, who's always trying to intimidate others and what have you. Those are not tough guys. I don't care how big they are or who they say they beat up or who, you might even see them beat somebody up before. They're not tough guys. They're actually the most afraid person in the whole room. And that's why they have to project this false sense of toughness. It's not real, right? The toughest guy is the one who doesn't want to fight, but he will if he has to. Keep that in mind. Overall, Vito, what do you think? Donnie Brasco, is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? What do you think about the movie?
Two thumbs up because he wound up at the end. He went back with his family and lived a normal life.
As normal as he could be. That's the truth. And you know what's ironic about that too?
Yeah,
Uh, Less than 10 years later, he wrote the book, Donnie Brasco. And then another 10 years after that, that's when the movie came out. So it was a pretty quick turnaround because in between the time that he revealed and the indictment started coming down, revealed that he was undercover, to the time where he wrote the book, all of that was just trials and putting these guys away. And then some of those guys ended up getting clipped for bringing in an FBI, agent of not even an informant, an agent into this thing of ours and what have you. So, really interesting story. Definitely something that we recommend everybody go check out if you haven't seen it before. If you've seen it before, go see it again. That's how good it is, for sure. Moving on here, Vito, we just had the Super Bowl, and
right.
people are getting a kick out of listening to you talk about food because we know that Big Vito LoGrasso is a big foodie, and your lovely wife Noelle, big foodie, and what have you. So, what was part of your Super Bowl spread this year, Vito?
Well, guys, sadly, I had to work for a good portion of the game, and then I came home. But you know what? It was. I'll give you this tidbit. Okay, when you got the big game and your mind is on going out, being a celebrity, and being, you don't have your mind on the prize, you always lose. Now, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, they went out styling, looking good, girlfriends, famous, but they forgot the hunger, what it took to make it to the Super Bowl and win it. And I told my wife before the Super Bowl, I says, listen, those guys forgot what it's like to be hungry. I says, and they're going to lose. And sure enough, the both of them played like shit. Their girlfriends being there, which I think is a big distraction to them. You know what I mean? Not that your wife cannot come or your girlfriend cannot come. I'm from the old school where your wife and girlfriend don't belong in the dressing room. They need to sit in the crowd and they need to just be there. You don't take your wife on the road with you. You don't take your girlfriend on the road with you. That's the way I was broken in, and that's how you concentrate on being a pro. And I think they missed that this time around. As far as the game, you saw the proof in the pudding. I mean, it was something. But you look at Saquon Barkley, a guy who's been striving and telling you, I'm on the Giants. I'm a great running back. Just pay me. I'll stay here for the rest of my career. And what did he do? He had 2,000-yard season. He kept his mind on the prize, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. So hard work pays off, guys. Keep your mind and always remember that because like when you start thinking you're bigger than the game, it's time to regroup and and think of something else.
Agreed 100%. I mean, listen, I'm not going to bellyache over Patrick Mahomes. I think that Kansas City team they had a pretty terrible team this year, and it was his leadership and his will to win is the reason why they went as far as they did because he's a legend, Patrick Mahomes, no two ways about it. His line didn't
Right.
show up. His receivers weren't getting open. Kelsey had a piss poor year, just like you said. Maybe he's distracted by his superstar girlfriend and what have you. It is what it is. So we know. And listen, they won the last two Super Bowls in a row, so it's not like this guy's chopped liver in Mahomes. So, but I do feel bad for the guy in the sense that how hard he worked and how hard he tried, and his team just didn't show up the way that he showed up all season, by the way. So it was what it was. Congratulations to the Eagles, though. They earned it. No two ways about it. Well coached, well disciplined team. They have a balanced attack at running and throwing the ball. Great defense. Hey, they were it. They were it all year. No two ways about it. So that was a good time. Even though it was a blowout, I still enjoyed the game because there's an interesting story at play here. Patrick Mahomes, who is the standard, losing in that fashion, like horribly. So now the question is, what is he going to do now? You know what I mean? How is he going to, is he ever going to get back to that level again? Or does he start to fade away now? Is his time past him? Or is he just getting started? Maybe this is the fire that's lit under his backside to get on the ownership, to make some real changes in that organization, get him what he needs to get back and win the damn thing. So, I'm excited. That was just the beginning, in my opinion. So, good stuff there. Vito, for everybody listening out there, what's the best way they can keep up with you, brother?
All right, guys. We have X. That's the Big Vito brand. We have TikTok at the Big Vito brand. We have Twitch at the Big Vito brand. Instagram, the Big Vito brand. If you want to go to my website, it is bigvito.com. I'm accepting bookings. I want to come to your hometown. Maybe we could do one of these shows remote while you're sitting there and ask me a bunch of mob questions. I'm open to anything. So, Duke, finish it out. Take it away. You know how to do your job.
Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook, on Twitter, X, whatever the hell we call it these days. DukeLovesWrestling at gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Send in your questions, the whole 9 yards there. We're just getting started. We're having a good time. I appreciate the fact that you folks have been hanging with this so heavy and sharing it. That means that you're enjoying what we're doing, and we ain't going to stop. That's for damn sure. So, with that said, Vito, let's get our Italian word of the week. In fact, why don't we go back to a word you already said? Je drool.
Judrul. Yeah, fucking Judrul.
What is a je drool?
Fucking one big jackass. You mushy shit son of a bitch. Fucking straighten up, you fucking Judrul.
A friend of ours, he'll stand up tall. Through gunfire smoke, he'll never fall. With heart of gold and steel resolve, a mystery we'll never solve.